Welcome to the Season 4, Episode 11 of The Dive. I am Kobe, joined by Azael and MarkZ. And despite all of the tiebreakers, we made it to the end of the split.
We did it. We're here. Week 9 is over. And it was actually a pretty banger final weekend. It was really, really exciting. So much was actually left on the table to decide coming this weekend. You know, traditionally, you get to week 9 and there's maybe a playoff spot or two up for grabs, but most stuff is pretty locked in. We're entering week 9. Only one seed had been decided, right? Cloud9 was first. We knew that. We didn't know anything else. No one else had even locked in.
CLG couldn't make it.
We knew the top and the bottom.
We knew two things.
The rest was being built as we went, but it still felt like, okay, but it's going to go kind of to chalk. You know, there's this really far outside chance, but probably Immortal's going to lock. All these 9-team wins, you know, they're gonna lock too. But it ended up getting pretty spicy, right? As Immortals lost their games, all these lower teams won their games. Even TL got to come in with a shot in this final game against C9. So it was really exciting.
I mean, I like the TL story a lot too. I saw Mark's mouth move at the last second there. Sorry, buddy.
No, you're good.
But the TL one was crazy because it felt like the whole league was doing their part, gonna get the wins, to get the upsets and the tiebreakers. And here you go, Team Liquid, epic, ending. Like, you get a shot at the end, and then they fight that game out, and Cloud9's like, peace, there goes the Nexus, Vulcan, we're in, right? And they just boot them right out.
Well, that's the crazy part too, is Team Liquid actually they were going to win that game for half of it. And then when C9 starts getting control, at least they were winning team fights. And you're like, oh, we're going to get this one final team fight at Elder to see if TL gets to stay alive or not. And then they just went to the bat. We just killed Nexus instead. It was such a anticlimactic ending to that game and to TL season as a whole, after, like you guys are saying, all of the other teams and scenarios worked to get them into the playoffs.
I actually saw a lot of salty fans about
they
the
were
backdoor. I got a lot of tweets about some not very PG ways of saying they didn't enjoy that ending.
That's a ban on in game.
Yeah. People were really pissed about it, and and I get that. If you're a TL fan and you've been kind of looking forward to this game, and it feels like, hey, finally it's going to work out. We're playing great. We're going head to head with C9, and we're taking some blows. We're giving some back, and it's even. And we're going to get this big team fight. Double is going to carry us, and we could do it. And then backdoor it ends, right? And they didn't even have the minion wave. But you got to give credit to them for that play. It's a very heads up play, and even recognizing that they didn't need the minions, that they could actually just pull it off with this 2-man Tom Kenchall into the base to close it out. But I think a lot of people wanted to see that final fight and wanted to see, could TL pull it off, because Double was like full items, and those fights had been so back and forth.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking forward to the end of the series, basically, and it's like just gets cut off, for them. They felt like they got denied.
It's like Ned Stark. They got Ned Stark, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't even tweet out an inflammatory or a flamey one or anything. I just tweeted out a generic I love League of Legends or whatever, because I still thought the game was super exciting.
Yeah, me too.
There were still people that were like, shut up. No, we don't. Nobody wanted to see it end like that. You idiot. And I was like, oh, man. Because what I had in my head was actually I've got the gif of Team Liquid with the picture frame missing Xmithy. Where did it all go wrong? I had the gif of this is Sparta kicking them into the pit right out of playoffs thing. And
I think
so many more jokes that could be made, but I was like, people are not happy with this, so we'll just not.
I just tweeted wow, and I was getting flamed.
Yeah,
or not me, but people were responding because they were so mad. The one that I sat on that I wanted to do was Team Liquid was really concerned about burnout, and the best way to avoid it is not having to play playoffs.
Yeah, I saw some tweets about that too. People
so good.
TL with the big brain move, getting the 7-week break or whatever, all this kind of stuff.
Reddit had some real good burners, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It is definitely pretty wild, but I've got to say that was a really fun game to watch. And if there was one for them to go out on, at least it wasn't just because I was kind of dreading that game, because as much as it had the potential to be exciting, I was like, ooh, it'd be really cool if TL made a game of it. But in all likelihood, they were just going to get rolled over in 30 minutes like everyone else, right? And that is what I was kind of dreading with that game. So as much as it sucks for TL and TL fans to see them get knocked out, they had a competitive game against C9. It was a really exciting game, and they had so many chances. They honestly got incredibly lucky that they even had the opportunity to play for the playoff spot in that game, right? And at the end of the day, they didn't deserve to make playoffs. They had a lot of issues throughout the split, which did plague them, and that is very frustrating, out of their hands, the visa stuff especially. But that being said, they only needed one more win at the end of the day, and they could have gotten that at so many times throughout the split.
Right, and I think that's where I land on this personally. Is just really disappointed with the team as a whole. And even going back, Jack, I saw a tweet about it, and it was something that I hadn't even really thought about in a while, but it definitely resonated with me, where he was talking about like, well, they didn't even boot camp, they elected to just train on their own. And Doublelift was in China doing his scrims or whatever, or his boot camp, and he wasn't playing as much. And like, in some sense, it's not like comeuppance is the right word or whatever, but it's like you reap what you sow. And, Team Liquid didn't put in the effort that the other teams did. And they did face a lot of other trials as well. But that's why people always talk about how important working hard is because it prepares you for when these unexpected curveballs come in, like not having your jungler there for the first part of the split, and just picking up a single win at any point. If you worked a little bit harder at the start of the split, could have avoided this outcome potentially, or at least got you a tiebreaker. So it's one of those things where, like, when I look back at it, it is just really disappointing for that team and how good those players are to not have them in our postseason, because of going all the way back to decisions like that, where they're concerned about burnout, so they don't do a training camp. And it's like, well, now you're not even in the playoffs.
Yeah, I feel like really often it is easy for that level of dominance to breed complacency.
Yeah.
So, right, if you're looking at it from their perspective, like, back to back, oh, dominate again. Even if you look at some of the series and they're pretty close, if they always end up winning and you always keep returning to first place, and they keep getting told they're the best in all these positions, you can see where the complacency comes from, and that sort of thing is very easy to look back. Hindsight, how everyone is doing now, and you're like, it didn't work hard enough, didn't look at it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, this is something I mentioned on a previous dive episode, talking about the potential of them not making playoffs, and I tweeted this out after the games. I think this is the single greatest disappointment in LCS history as far as expectation of a roster and a team versus reality. Right? This is by far the most expensive roster in the league. It's not even close. This is a roster with multiple people have won world championships, another world finalist, MSI finalists, so much experience and so much skill on this roster that it is insane that they did not make top 6. And they finished ninth place in this league, where you have a salary that's probably triple or quadruple or 5 times what a lot of these other teams are actually putting out there. And you have so much skill, so much experience. I just think it is insane. And if I was Steve, if I was the people that is actually signing these checks for this roster to get 9th, like, are you kidding me? That is just horrible. And This is not to tell everyone, get your pitchforks and start roasting the players. That's not the point. The point is just that is a disappointment, and fans should be disappointed. The players should be disappointed. The team should be disappointed. And I just think it's crazy that they are 9th. It's not even like they, got 6th or 7th or whatever, because that would be a big enough disappointment as is.
Second
TSM,
worst team in the league.
They're the second worst team in the league. They're only better than CLG, who was just an absolute train wreck. And I just think it's crazy when you were looking player by player. It's
how crazy is it, Azael?
It's so crazy, man. Like, I actually just can't. I can't believe it. If you put me back to the start of the split, I would still predict that they get first, just on paper. Even if you told me that they were never going to have Broxa for the whole split and they would play with Surenfire the whole split, I still would have never predicted that they get 9th place.
Yeah, it's not even up for debate if this is the biggest disappointment. We got a Twitter question kind of asking about if this was bigger, or if the TSM having their finals appearance streak broken. And yeah, I really don't think it is a debate. Getting ninth place, not making playoffs. Of course, this is it. After this team has only known winning because you consider this team being formed with franchising, right? When Steve decided and Team Liquid decided we're going to shell out all of this money to be winners, and they proved that to be viable 4 times in a row. That's not to be said that other teams didn't try and shell out a lot of money to be winners as well. Travis actually leaked a bunch of at different times how much teams have paid, and there were some teams that were paying a little bit less than Team Liquid that were getting not nearly the results. So it's not like this guaranteed formula of, oh yeah, more money means more wins. And there have been more failures kind of in that arena behind the scenes, but this is the proven one. So
yeah, even that TSM one, like at some point that was going to happen. At some point you needed to lose that.
And that's only not making finals, right?
Right. They made playoffs.
And that was still a 5-game series, if I recall correctly, right?
It was 4.
Was it 4? That was the Hakuo Thresh one,
yeah.
right? Where everyone was kind of like, you guys are trolling, you should just ban Thresh because Hakuo was popping off. But and that was a big disappointment, right? And when you look at the expectations versus reality and everything, this is obviously a bit of an unfair question because it's fully retrospective. But now knowing what happened here with TL, you are now Steve. You're the GM of Team Liquid. Do you actually get Broxa, or if you keep Smithy, essentially, do you think the same thing happens? Is it completely an issue independent of him? And it's just, hey, you guys, were overconfident, you got lazy, whatever? Or is this just saying maybe you didn't appreciate all the intangibles that Smithy's bringing to the team?
I think they would have made playoffs at least if they had Smithy the whole time. I don't know if they're suddenly challenging Cloud9 or even top half of the bracket because Smithy didn't make playoffs either. They finished 1 spot above at 8th. But I also, like we've talked before about, Smithy didn't have nearly as much to work with. So like you would think adding those 2 pieces back together, they're at least a playoff bound team. But I don't think that they would win this championship with Smithy with how well Cloud9's playing because of these other problems like we've already talked about.
But you wouldn't have made the trade.
I'm always one of those people who appreciates when people are trying to get to the next level. And
we're cheating here, Mark. We're going in the time machine. You know everything that's happened.
If I know everything that happened, then no.
Yeah.
Well, also, we don't have to. We discussed this when the trade happened, and most of us were like, side grade-ish. What's going on here? So you are breaking existing synergies. I think another important factor, though, when we're discussing it now, where we have more information, is not falling prey to causal reductionism, where it's not as simple as one reason. Humans usually want to find one reason and grab onto it so that they feel secure and can explain something away in a more simple fashion. But that is a logical fallacy because that is extremely rare for that ever to be true. Most of the time, there are so many more reasons to it. I think this case is really easy to see them. You mentioned a lot of them.
Yeah.
All these roster changes, yes, but there were clearly underlying motivation and team synergy and even coaching issues that have all come to the surface with this kind of exploding and bursting into flames mid-season. It's kind of cool to see what was under the surface this entire time.
Oh, you're looking for the Dunzo manifesto in a week or 2 or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully with you. It's clearly not one thing, it's not just Broxa, it's not just Double, it's not just anything, right? There's a lot of issues going on here. To take a team from how good they were to what they were playing like now is clearly a lot of issues. But that's not the only thing that did happen at the end of the split here. We finished up week 9. TSM, a lot of people pretty disappointed, I think, with how they finished the split. Obviously riding high a couple weeks ago after taking down C9, and they finished fairly flat, right? They weren't part of the tiebreakers. They were secure at their playoff spot, but they finished the season 9-9. What's your guys' take?
I think it's pretty hard to be excited for a TSM fan right now. Like when we saw the Cloud9 game, everyone was ready. Like, okay, they're the second best team. They're going to rally a little bit. What they go 0-3 in their last 3 games, I think. Let me double check this.
I can pull it up, but yeah, I think that does sound right. I mean, they definitely O2'd the last weekend here.
0-3 in the last 3 games. That feels terrible. Whatever high points that you think they have, which I think they have a lot of, if they can't actually consistently use those, you're pretty doomed in a playoff series. Maybe you can beat someone in a best of, but in the lower bracket, you need to win 3 without losing 1. If I have the bracket right, so like for an inconsistent team against good opponents, that's just not going to happen. You're not going to rip off 3 in a row unless you get really hot.
Well, and I'm just concerned, if I'm looking at it from TSM perspective, if I am an opposing coach preparing for this team, I go look at their, even just their records and their performance, and you watch some of these games with certain champions, there's a couple that you never want to give them. Xayah Rakan, 100% win rate when Biofrost has Rakan. He's obviously incredible on it. Kabe won, every one of those games paired with it. The only Xayah game he lost out of 6 was one that he was not paired actually with Rakan. Bjergsen has not lost on Syndra. He's 5-0 there. Broken Blade has not lost on Set. There are champions that are very obvious to actually contest and take away in pick ban. And I think that TSM is going to have to be able to show much greater flexibility going forward if they're going to be able to succeed. Because as you've said, they haven't been able to get it done without some of these key champions, and they haven't been able to find that level of consistency.
My problem is that I can get excited for TSM, but every time I do, they follow it up with a reason to kill that excitement. Oh my God, they beat Cloud9. Oh, they went 2-0. Next weekend. Like, I feel like that keeps
Sums it up well.
Yeah, because as you know, we've been North American representatives for 10 years here. We want League of Legends from North America to have a bunch of strong representatives heading to international competition, defending our honor, earning accolades. So, all right, we got Cloud9. Who else is it going to be? Let's get excited for someone else. Someone steps up. It feels like every time we're about to get that, we then immediately after see some of their flaws exposed by one of our other teams. And that has led to all these tiebreakers and so many teams being, clumped here in the middle. And the hope is that these teams can sharpen each other very quickly here in playoffs and produce some, diamonds in the rough there. But it does. We do not have another one to show for ourselves right now.
I do feel like, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, that the teams in the between 100 Thieves and EG, I did start seeing some pretty good things out of them. So I'm feeling a little bit better. Mm-hmm. It's not coming from where we thought it would, where we were like TL and TSM, we're going to compete with C9 at the top of the table. Like none of that has panned out, but I do feel like some of the EG and 100 Thieves late season resurgence has actually been pretty impressive. But I think we'll get more into that when we get into the actual matchups.
Yeah, we will be previewing some of those matchups. But I would also say Golden Guardians, got to give them some props for their final weekend. Kind of one of the most impressive finishes to a split, I think, out of any of these teams. When I'm looking at this final weekend, including the tiebreakers, they came in to this weekend with 6 wins, went 3-0. They needed luck as far as other things happening for them to even have a chance to do it. But they looked really good overall. They had some dominant wins down the stretch. That 24-minute win, I think, with the Zikz support was super hype. They won the next day in a very quick game. I can't remember exactly, but I have it in my head. It's under 30 minutes. And then we're able to get it done again today, And I think that is a pretty incredible run for a team that, we were all thinking was going to finish bottom of the table.
Yeah, they used that window that everyone was saying, oh, look at all the things going right for TL. Now they can sneak into playoffs. It's like, well, someone did use all that correctly, and that was Golden Guardians. And funnily enough, on the dive, I think we've talked about this, like, oh, I think Golden Guardians actually has a small chance. I think some of us said. We also said EG looks like they're the team that's really going to rally. So I think we all did pretty good, actually.
5 head all around.
Yeah,
good job.
Week 6, we start figuring it out. Yeah.
Honestly, for the Golden Guardians specifically, though, we're just guessing which side the boxes are on. By the way,
I'll just get all the sides. It's just little.
One player that I've been consistently excited for is Closer. As soon as he joined the league, I was like, okay, maybe we can get another pop-off performance. He was so good in the TCL. I think he has been consistently good for them, and consistency is something that not a lot of teams, not a lot of players in the whole league have been able to deliver. And I just think that he's such a strong backbone for them to work off. Whether they, people bring up, are they reliant on Golden Glue getting Zoe, or are they, reliant on Aphelios? These types of crutches. I think that he has been the one thing that you can count on to deliver.
All right. I got my report and my honor ready. So I'm going to hop into it. So I actually saw, the end of the season. You guys have probably seen it too. Chloe and Tom, our stats people, showed the final results for the stock market. And I am reporting all of us who played the stock game because first place was actually Jet, and he lost money. So if one of us just never bought any stocks the whole split, we would have been first place by like a couple hundred.
So you know what the problem was? Is that we all went in on Team Liquid, and then none of us wanted to be. Yeah, none of us wanted. We all fell into sunk cost fallacy. None of us wanted to be the ones to pull out and see the other ones surge up ahead. And I was like, wow, there's no way I'm gonna let these idiots take the glory. So we're all going down together.
You know who really blasted me was TSM. Because I actually bought a lot of TSM early, and when they had this really easy schedule, and then they 0-2'd against some teams that were very low in the stock market, I lost so much off of TSM having a bad week. And I know a lot of us were kind of just trolling, to be honest, with the stocks. At a certain point, it was kind of just like YOLO. And, if you're not first, you're last anyway. So just keep all in on TL and pray they turn it around. But I just thought it was so funny because I won last time, and I want to say I had 5,700. So I went plus 700. And this time, Jat won, and he was at 4,600 or something like that. He went minus 300 or 400 and he's still first place. Mark and I were down at 4K, and Mark has the dubious honor of back-to-back last place finishes in the stock market.
It stole my Cloud9 stocks. I had those, remember?
Well, we all made the end of season Team Liquid slide. I joined it latest, and I'm actually second place. This is the third time in a row, by the way. I've been second place 3 seasons in a row. And I am also 4,600 under Jat. I'm double digits only under him. So if I had not, even in the last week, if I had not been it's first or last, I got to go with Team Liquid. We got to make the big gains. If I had just gone something for even and let everyone else lose, I would have finally won.
Well, Jat before this week actually had 5,200. He was actually he actually made money, and then he all-in on CLG on the last weekend. They went 0-2.
That's how. Isn't that how he made? Isn't that how he made a bunch of the money too with CLG?
I think so.
Yeah.
I forget what he did
because
I'm not sure.
The other thing was the predictions were actually super hard this split. StatSpot, which is the tool that predicts who's going to win based off their prices in the stock market, which is basically ELO. Mm-hmm. It had at least weeks.
Elo, it's his name.
ELO.
Sorry, I just know that people are.
GIF. The guy who made GIF wanted it called GIF, I'm pretty sure, or something, and everyone calls it GIF. So
there's always those two sticklers that I want to correct, and they're like, "Excuse me, it is a person's name." Elo. Continue, Mark. Now that I have sufficiently interrupted and destroyed your point.
Yeah. So my point is, I think it was week 7. I saw StatSpot and it had a negative prediction rate, which I don't think I've ever seen before. So I don't know what we finished because we kind of, when we went online, lost some of the capacity to track all these stuff because everyone's busy with other things. So I'll be curious to see if our predictions get tweeted out at some point. But I was barely above 500, I think, as were most of us. And the season was just wild because everyone who you thought would be good and had high stock prices lost early. FlyQuest and some of these other teams went on bigger runs. And then just when you wanted to start believing in them, TSM, FlyQuest, all of them start slumping, and 100 Thieves shoots up, and EG, who looked terrible and was talking about how they're all on the same different pages, no one's getting along, they shoot up. And so the stock market was whack, predictions were whack, this season was whack, everything.
But I got my honor, and my honor I'm going to give to Jiizuke. Jiizuke has been absolutely popping off. He is, I think, honestly, at this point, maybe you have to call him a dark horse, but for Honda MVP, I think you at least have to consider. I think for the all-pro teams, you definitely have to consider having him in there. He has been so good down the stretch. He I'm not going to say, single-handedly or anything like that, but he was the driving force, I think, behind EG's late season run all the way to second place. And I think that is incredible based on how they started. And I think he has had the most kind of solo carry style performances. He has just been a beast. And people are having to target him and pick ban now, specifically with picks like Rise and things like that aren't really getting banned against other players just because he has been so damn good. So that's my report and honor.
Yeah. The reason I liked him and I was going to also honor him all is because he's reminding me of the 2018 Worlds run, which really brought him a tremendous amount of fame. Mm-hmm. And it's playing his own style. And we had all these inspirational speeches that year about not conforming and not trying to copy the better regions. You're just going to be an inferior, flimsy version of it. Stay true to yourself. and that's what he did. And that's what, he's kind of bringing back now with the echo picks into Cinder and the side laning with Rise. And so, yeah, I also agree. And that was going to be mine. My report is staying very similar to what it was last week. It is also going to be the ISP with an added sprinkle of Unity, our audio program that we have been using for the casters to talk to each other, because our system's very complicated where we send our individual streams back to LCS engineers and producers, and then they send it out to stream. So we sounded okay on the cast today, but I could only hear 50% of the words that Freak was saying. So I had to fill in the middle of it, a lot of his sentences. And for some of the time, he couldn't even hear me at all. And I had to restart a couple of times. So we're still having issues. But, instead of Jiizuke for my honor, since Azael did that one, I'm going to re-honor all of our engineering and audio team because they kept me on there. they were able to make it sound okay to listeners, even though it was on fire on my end.
The good part was you're casting with Freaks. You can just assume he did a little bit of math and then threw in a pun, and then well, that's a really interesting
50-50.
numbers you gave there, and also and then you just say whatever you want to say.
Yeah. I don't know how well that would work. Usually, that was a great joke, and he's like, I was talking about breakpoints of itemization. All right,
Mark, what you got?
So for me, if you follow my Twitter, you already saw this report a little bit, and I'm going full Karen, and I'm reporting Dunkin' Donuts. They had some deals on Grubhub, so I started ordering Dunkin' Donuts. It was great at first, and then just quickly went downhill where they messed up 3 of my orders in a row, giving me the wrong drink. Just basically giving me pure milk when I asked for an extra shot. They only put 1 shot in, and then it's just completely messing it up. I will say thank you to the drivers and the people who are still delivering these things, and even people who are going in and working. I understand on the bigger scale, this is a very trite complaint, but I'm gonna make it anyways because
that's who you are.
Because I'm locked in a room all day, and this is one of the few things I look forward to is my coffee in the morning, and then I don't know. I understand it's stupid, but I'm losing my mind.
As long as you understand.
Yeah,
we're all on the same page here then.
Yeah, okay. Great. So my honor is actually 100 Thieves with a little bit extra thrown at Zikz. He was someone who had a bit of a fall from grace from being North America's kind of super coach guy, which he was in 2015 and 2016 a little bit with CLG when they grabbed those wins and they started going on to that MSI run, and then got fired or removed from that organization, went to TSM. It felt like this collaboration everyone's waiting for. Another lackluster split. They did make finals of spring, so there were some successes there too, but then once again didn't work out by the end of the split or by the end of the season. This has been incredible for 100 Thieves, and I always look for improvements as one of the key things for when I really think a coach is doing well. And the fact that 100 Thieves were the second best team in the back half of the split, going 7-2, was really impressive. They had a lot of problems at the start of the split that they seemed to iron out pretty much all of them. This also obviously goes to Papa and the players for working and making sure all this works out. But Ryoma has been much better than any of us thought coming in. And he actually started making some big plays. So I'm sure a lot of that's on Ryoma for stepping up and Papa for getting him, but also Zikz for working and making sure the players are improving. So all around, everyone on 100 Thieves definitely gets this honor, but a little bit extra just for Zikz.
You got your gold star.
You saying that has made me feel like I have to actually mention Irene.
Yeah.
Because Irene left CLG, who finished third, right?
I shouldn't laugh that hard.
Or second. Actually, no, they finished second last in summer. I do believe, right?
No, they
I'm
got
not trolling.
third.
I could have sworn they finished.
Or you mean
second
in regular season?
Regular season.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So regular season, they finished second. It felt like a lot of us, myself included, thought they actually upgraded their roster. They hard 10th. Irene goes to EG, second place. Not bad. Second place, 2 splits in a row. Huge improvement. When you're talking about improvement, that's immediately where my mind was going was, damn, well, EG got really good throughout the split. They were able to fix a lot of their issues that it felt like they were having. So that's a guy that's not really talked about much. I'm a big Zikz fan too. I think he's super smart anytime I talk to him about the game. So really happy for him and for their organization, but also think Irene deserves a bit of the tip of the hat because he has, I think, kind of quietly been putting in some really, really good results. Also, Honda MVP. Haha, it's coming up. Week 9 is over. Our votes are incoming. We haven't obviously submitted our votes yet. The surveys are going to come out, I don't know, tonight, tomorrow, whenever. And we're going to have to think through, all pro and all those other things and coaching split and all that too. But I want to focus on the Honda MVP discussion. Who do you guys have as your Honda MVP frontrunners?
Okay. I'll just throw it out there. I think Blabber actually. I had Niski for a lot of the split, and he did have a bit of a suspect week 8, but his week 9 was so damn good, and I think he hasn't had the most diverse champion pool. But jungle is not one of those ones where I think it matters a ton, and I don't think he's going to get banned out in playoffs or anything. And so coming in, taking up the mantle of Sven Skaren, who was the former MVP of C9 as a jungler. Maybe it's just kind of like repeating history and it feels a little weird to some people, but I really do think he's been incredible. He has the highest win rate all time in the LCS. I know that doesn't really factor in, but it's at least showing that like this isn't just a flash in the pan to me. And then to help step in and replace the former MVP and then lead them to even higher heights at 17-1, an all-time tied record, is something that I think he deserves a lot of credit for. It's hard though because so many people on C9 are so good.
Yeah, Blabber's an absolute monster. He has not had very many mistakes to the degree that when he had the one bad game, we're all losing our minds like, what's gone wrong? Something's wrong. Are they poisoned over there at Cloud9? What's wrong with Blabber? What? They get up today and he stubbed his face because he's been very consistent for them in an aggressive play style. It's so hard to remain consistent and putting up performances when you're playing an aggressive playstyle and taking a lot of risks. So I agree with the Blabber. I still have Niski up there. I think Niski got there for a reason, and he has been such a tremendous part of getting Cloud9 to this area. Him being one of the mids in the league that actually very quickly embraced roaming for the rest of the team, going to the jungler to work with Blabber. It's kind of one of the reasons it's hard to separate them is because a lot of the early plays have been either them helping each other shove, double two-person going for invades, or both of them roaming topside, stuff like that. But I think that flexibility from mid laners we haven't seen from very many, if any, of the other mid laners in the LCS. So I still think Niski's up there. If I'm throwing out non-Cloud9 people, though, Someday, Jiizuke, I think they've both been really good. Even Bang on Evil Geniuses has performed extremely well, and not a lot of people usually put him forward as MVP material. But I think there are a decent amount of the dark horses or multiple different people you can actually get behind. But it's probably gonna go to a Cloud9 member.
Yeah, I think that Cloud9 has pretty much all the front runners, right? I do think Blabber, Niski, those are the guys I think most people are talking about. I also think Vulcan deserves some consideration. I think he was incredibly consistent also throughout the entire split. I do think that Cloud9's bot lane has somewhat been revitalized. It does look more dominant in lane, kind of more consistent than we have seen in the past. Obviously, that's not just Vulcan, it is Sven and him working so well together. And, this is something that really kind of has changed for the team. They look so strong now through that bottom lane. So it is pretty interesting to see, just where all the votes are going to go. And I do wonder if there is a chance that Cloud9 members will split enough votes that one of these dark horses will actually have a chance. Because you want to say Cloud9 is so much better than every other team. The MVP has got to be Cloud9, right? But do you think that there is that shot that someone like Jiizuke, who, you know, maybe more clearly stands out among his teammates because, you know, he is on a weaker team than Cloud9, could actually steal it away if everyone's like, yeah, Blabber, Niski, Vulcan, all really good, all deserving, and so they all get kind of this mishmash of votes where, you know, Jiizuke or whoever picks up enough to maybe win?
It's possible, but I think the problem with that is there's not a good enough candidate in the other ones, because you're saying Jiizuke, but I think a lot of people will also say someday. So I think if it was like there was one clear guy who deserved it but wasn't on C9, maybe enough of the votes would fall into him that the other split wouldn't matter. But I think the same split's going to happen with who people put as their like second or third candidate, where it's someday it's Jiizuke, it's Bang or whoever. And so I think it still will be someone on C9. I hope I'm not wrong, because I really do think it should be someone on C9 when you have an all-time performance as a team. That MVP must be on your team.
Especially, like, as much of a fan of Jiizuke as I am, I do think you still have to take in consideration the earlier weeks when he wasn't looking so good, and Cloud9 has been so damn consistent. So I do think that they're deserving, and I think that somewhat to compensate, there may be a lot of people, myself included, who could put multiple Cloud9 members in the top 3 for MVP voting, and I think that is legitimate, this split, based on how damn good they are. I'm curious, do either of you guys have any consideration anymore for some of the TSM members? Because a couple weeks back, there was talk, you know, I had seen on social and things about some of those guys being consideration. Broken Blade was mentioned a lot of times around, maybe not MVP, but at the very least, you know, like first team top laner, and this type of conversation in there with Licorice and Bjergsen maybe too. Has that just kind of fallen apart with TSM not having a strong last couple weeks?
I think Broken Blade would be the name from TSM that I would put forward, but I still have him under Someday right now in just my top laner rankings. Yeah. So that's kind of the difficulty.
Yeah, I think that's how I feel about a lot of the kind of dark horse Honda MVP candidates, is that they're behind other people, not even just on for TSM at least. They're behind Jiizuke in the mid lane. I was thinking might be the second best mid laner I know. We were kind of throwing names around over the last couple of days.
It's hard, man.
It gets really hard. It's like, what about PoE? He was so good for the first half and kind of became invisible. Not like he started playing bad, but like didn't have the same influence. And so it becomes so difficult to judge a lot of these other guys that, especially for TSM, I think, you know, they might not have an all-pro first team player, which is like, how do you get an MVP candidate then, or even a second team player?
It feels like it's going to be one of those splits where first place is probably all Cloud9, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they finished 7 games above second place, right? Let's be honest. They were so far the best team. And it might also be not only all Cloud9 first team, but I could very easily see it being like Licorice or Niski, Blabber, all these people get like 100 points and second place is like 25 or something because everyone else is just splitting votes. Because for a lot of positions, there's so many people in there that you could consider who performed really well at certain points of the split and then kind of fell off, right? There's not a lot of guys outside of Cloud9 who are able to turn in the strong performance the whole way through, you know, without kind of having those things to nitpick at, right? And I think that is going to make it so difficult to actually decide, because there's so many teams in there. You know, I mean, from second to ninth was a couple games, was 3 games, right? So it's not that big of a difference, and will make it interesting. But we have our playoff matchups that are actually decided for the first week. TSM won't be playing first week. 5th, 6th won't be playing first week. So Golden Guardians won't either. So we're actually just going to focus on the first matchups that we do have, which is those top 4 teams that are playing. Cloud9, being the number 1 seed, actually got to choose their opponent. They chose 100 Thieves. I think a lot of people were expecting FlyQuest. So that's where we'll start. And it is a little bit surprising to me, because 100 Thieves had such a strong back half of the split, and it feels like FlyQuest has been struggling, has been swapping around their top laner, not really sure exactly where they are landing, but they have looked much more vulnerable. And really where my mind goes is that this means Cloud9 wants to attack Ryoma in the mid lane, because that's usually the main difference people are going to point to between FlyQuest and 100 Thieves as far as a weakness.
Yeah, I actually got a lot of Twitter questions about this. Since we're doing this dive immediately after doing all the tiebreakers, I tweeted one out. I'm trying to read through and collect some by the time we get to that section. There's so many surrounding, like, oh my God, why did they pick 100 Thieves? Is it because they want to practice on stage against them? But if you're playing on stage against them in the first round, then you don't get to scrim them. So you don't get that practice there. Some people are like, oh, do you think Cloud9 want to attack the early game of 100 Thieves, who are traditionally slower? But to me, they have completely changed that. Cody Sun is playing Lucian now. They're playing extremely aggressive. I think that before this last week, maybe you could say that, but 100 Thieves, I think, have gone a lot more aggressive and started to play a lot quicker in the early game, as seen by the one we just gassed today, where there's 2 kills every 30 seconds, and they're just pounding out these objectives. And 100 Thieves ended up losing that one, but they did have, I think, a much improved early game. So I'm still a little bit perplexed as
here's my tinfoil hat theory. You ready?
Yeah.
If the playoff graphic, if I understood it correctly, it said TSM plays the loser of the first match, which is C9's game. Yeah. The only team to have beaten C9 this split is TSM. You can't pick EG, so you pick the best option to send into the match to try and take out TSM, which is 100 Thieves.
So they're picking a Pokemon type here, and they're like, 100 Thieves, that is actually super effective versus TSM type. I'll choose you. I beat you, and then I get to throw you in after I've captured you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, based off what we were talking about, like, why else would they pick them? It makes more sense to me like that than because you actually think, it's easier to beat 100 Thieves. I understand the midpoint about that might be a bigger discrepancy. Mm-hmm. And if all of FlyQuest is playing well, I think they might have a higher floor in some sense, where all the players are at least pretty good in lane and stuff like that, and have a little bit more proven time than Ryoma. But I also don't think that they have anywhere near the same ceiling that we've seen out of players like Someday and Cody and Meteos. So while, yes, like, you might be a little like, ooh, who do we really want to exploit versus FlyQuest? It's maybe top lane, maybe mid lane. It's obvious versus 100 Thieves, but I also don't think you have to worry about anyone on FlyQuest the way you have to worry about what Someday's going to do.
It is really interesting, and I think it's a cool point. If that is what it is, then that's a little bit of 4D chess going on, right? That's pretty interesting. But I do think that as much as Cloud9 has been clearly the best team, and more so than I can remember really ever before, it feels like almost like this one horse race for playoffs. It's still, you can't overlook your opponents, right? You should be picking to win. You should be picking for whatever is the most guaranteed matchup for yourselves. And I would be surprised if Cloud9 are just saying, yeah, we're guaranteed to win against all these schlubs. Who cares? Let's just pick, the one who's going to have the best chance against TSM after we slam them. So it's really, really interesting to think about. And, they may just have a very different view on this team, having scrimmed against them all the time. Maybe it's specific matchups. So much of playoffs is obviously about preparation. So there may be certain areas they think they can actually exploit champion pools. We saw, Cody Sun kind of, getting attacked a bit in Champ Select today. People trying to do things like that in a best of 5 can be pretty effective. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what they actually come out with. But I have a lot of trouble betting on anyone against Cloud9. Like, really, I think regardless of who Cloud9 picked, I'm predicting a 3-0.
Mark, I found a Twitter question that basically has your hypothesis too. So there are other tinfoil hatters out
That's
there.
The thing about a conspiracy theory. Someone else is probably crazy enough in the world to think the same way.
And because so many of their options are so close in strength, or perceived strength at least, if it is only a difference of a half a percentage point or something like that, then I think it definitely is a valuable risk versus reward. I like the intrigue.
Do any of you guys actually give 100 Thieves a game in this series?
One game?
It's right. I think that says a lot about the series.
I would give them a game where something happens with top lane matchup where Someday gets so incredibly fed on a champion. Yes, Aatrox is like the most played, but he's also had games where like Gangplank. And you can see a champion like Gangplank, when that champion gets a big lead and, you know, he's all of a sudden got Infinity Edge and Trinity Force, and he's able to blow up half the team. I would give 100 Thieves a game versus Cloud9.
I was initially going to agree with you. I would give them a game, but then I went to look at who their week 8 opponents were when they were like kind of, are they experimenting? Are they not playing well? Who knows? Either way, they weren't great games from C9. One of the teams they beat during that weekend was 100 Thieves, because I was about to be like, oh, if 100 Thieves is playing well and C9 plays one of their bad games, you know, bad in air quotes, against 100 Thieves, maybe they can win. But they already did that. So I have a hard time believing that they won't be more locked in. They won't be more serious. They won't be more try hard. They won't be experimenting less. And like somehow a game gets away from them, because they're so good about finding ways back in the game and adapting to how they're supposed to team fight if they lose one, and changing things up. And, you know, if you look at their one loss this season by TSM, it was like straight up 5v5, constant losing those games with a Shen top and some other weird stuff. And I just can't see that happening.
I think that's kind of a key, though, because if you look at the way in which Cloud9 lost and the way in which 100 Thieves have changed here to week 9, where 100 Thieves are much more confident, it seems. They're taking a lot more of these early fights. They're not backing down from them. That was kind of the thread that TSM took in getting that win. So I'll give them 1.
I'm going to be really interested to see what kind of preparation 100 Thieves comes up with, because to Mark's point, that even the game that you were talking about earlier, Kobe, where it was like, oh, this terrible Blabber game, that was against 100 Thieves and they still beat them.
Yeah.
Right? That was that game. And I went back and I looked at both these matchups. It was actually Kalista top in one of the games into the Ornn, and then also Camille into the Aatrox. Both times C9 prioritized getting a counter pick for Licorice. So, you know, that's something that 100 Thieves could try to combat if they want to pick red side in some of the games and try to get someday an advantageous matchup. Maybe there's a way in there. But both times, clearly Cloud9 did prioritize shutting him down. And it's not as though Licorice is just going to roll over and die if someday gets an advantageous matchup. Licorice is really good at playing all of these different sides, and has been a guy to actually come out with some of these counter picks that are very dangerous, where traditionally people aren't going as extreme on them. You know, bringing out the Quinn, bringing out the Kalista, bringing out things like this is something that he is comfortable doing alongside someday. But it is really interesting. And I do think that when you look at 100 Thieves and their season, if there's one guy to kind of put your season in his hands, it does feel like it should be someday, because he has had so many monster performances.
And teams might fall into the trap, Cloud9 included, of hyper focusing only on someday and only on that part of the map. And if they have one of these kind of flimsy counter matchups that requires a bunch of attention, I do think Cody Sun started to play so much better, so much more aggressively. And you guys kind of talked about Ryoma as well. So I'm not betting on them. I'm not investing in stocks, but I would
give
like
them one.
to do the devil's advocate 100 Thieves side. Spice.
Give me the 3-0.
Yeah.
I'm on the 3-0 too, man. It's just Cloud9 just looks so good, but I want there to be a team that can challenge them.
Yeah.
Well, the fight between the teams that Cloud9 did not choose, FlyQuest, which people thought they were going to choose, versus Evil Geniuses, who have really been on this big end of season surge as well. We kind of mentioned the 100 Thieves second half of the season record, but EG have been right there with them as far as the performances that they've put up. And I think they actually match up really well versus FlyQuest. So I think that this one is also going to be, I would initially just put my favor on the side of EG.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet in a lot of ways. It's just because FlyQuest hasn't looked great recently, and when they did look great, it was a lot about mid lane and kind of working with Ignar as well. And for the most part, EG stacks up pretty well in that regard, with Sven and Azael and Jiizuke being a lot of the primary playmakers and just things for this team, whereas Bang's a really great safe AD carry who scales well, lanes well, farms up, and then becomes really dominant. And then we're talking about maybe the one weakness is top lane, and like, where has FlyQuest been substituting their players? It's top lane. So it does feel a little bit difficult to exploit, but Solo has had some great games in the past. And so maybe FlyQuest, with a full week of practice, he's the definite starter. We don't know. It actually hasn't been announced or anything like that. But assuming, Solo is the definite starter and they practice and spend a week really practicing hard counter pick matchups and stuff around top lane, maybe that's an avenue they could try to attack.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. EG does have the 2-0 from the regular season over FlyQuest, and EG I think went 6-3 down the stretch. So very, very strong, second half of the split, and then also winning their tiebreaker. So if you want to count that 7-3, whatever. But EG has just improved so much. I felt like throughout the split that they have really kind of, it feels like, refined their play style in the last 3 whatever weeks. The only team that they actually lost to really was Cloud9. They lost to Cloud9 on Saturday. Besides that, they have won 6 of their last 7 games. This is a team that feels like they have really figured it out. I do think that they are the current second best team right now. Not just in record, but in like overall strength. And I feel like they are fairly hard to actually pin down and attack in the draft. Because it's, as much as you want to say it's about Jiizuke and shut down Jiizuke, Bang has been super consistent too, right? He has been really, really good, I think, throughout almost the entire split. Kumo has not been great, but I would say in the last couple of weeks, he has rarely been exploitable. He has rarely been, just getting dominated or anything like that. It feels like Kumo has gotten to the point where he can kind of neutralize a lot of lanes and not necessarily be your win condition, but he's going to like hang in there. And as you're saying, FlyQuest doesn't have a Someday or a Licorice or something that you think you want to devote your entire game plan to just slamming. It feels like PoE is kind of your guy as far as that goes for FlyQuest. But Jiizuke has just been in better form over the last couple of weeks. So it feels hard to think that, PoE is going to be the one to really kind of dominate there unless he has some sort of pick that he can really come up with to kind of take over, because Jiizuke even has the Malzahar that he's brought it a couple times, which can easily be used to neutralize matchups if he's getting attacked. And we already know he's happy to bring Echo out into Syndra. That's really scary. His Ryze can take over games. His Zoe and LeBlanc can both take over games. So he becomes really hard to actually pin down in draft. And we've seen PoE bring out Ahri a couple times, which was kind of like his more niche pick, but it hasn't really worked out. So I feel like, FlyQuest is going to have to come up with something creative for PoE to really kind of get a foothold in this series.
I will say that PoE is just a different style, but still very good at it. He's still number 1 damage per minute for mid laners. And he has branched out a little bit more than initially thought with some of the melee or assassin champions, but you still kind of think that FlyQuest are going to craft kind of the team fighting composition for him to have a control mage in the mid lane. So I do agree, but I can definitely see how FlyQuest would attack this. Jiizuke I'll take him every time in a side lane versus PoE, but in the 5-on-5 team fights, PoE does very well for himself.
And I think even beyond that, the just volatility in some sense of the 2 champion pools, like PoE is more likely going to play Victor, Orianna, Syndra, control mages. It seems like if it can't go in a side lane, Jiizuke is not that interested in it. Even Malzahar in some sense is okay in a side lane, as we saw today, just willing to split push TP between lanes and kill himself under inhib turrets. Like, in that
he kills
sense,
turrets fast with the void links.
Hey, it was looking okay. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just saying. It's just those kinds of champions. If they have a bad laning phase, they become so much harder to actually side lane with. Whereas control mages, the reason they've always been so popular in League of Legends is it's almost impossible to knock them out of the game. And so, if Jiizuke has a bad game, or they have some way of controlling his champions in game, I could see how FlyQuest could, in some sense, control what is EG's best player. But like you said, Bang's also playing really well, and Sven is good about making plays. He actually has some pretty sick plays around top lane, even though they didn't all work out in the 2v2s versus 100 Thieves. You at least saw that they were making plays up there, so it's not like they're one-track mind into playing around mid or anything.
Yeah, so how are you guys feeling actually about the jungle matchup too? Because this is something that we haven't really touched on too much. Obviously, Jiizuke and Bang getting a lot of attention. Sven Skaren, though, is the reigning MVP. He has started to play pretty well. I think he did kind of get trashed against Cloud9, I guess, recently, but he's been looking good. And on the other side of things, I'm curious what your opinions are kind of on Santorin, because Santorin, it feels like he has been more of a mixed bag. He had a really strong start to the split. It was kind of reminiscent of his spring from last year where he was playing really well. And then in summer, it felt like he kind of fell off. And it has been feeling like he's been struggling to get as much done, I think, in the last couple of weeks of the split.
I'm not super sold on Santorin. I think he's a good player, and we've seen his peaks just last spring where he was the only one to break into the All Pro vote from not a top 3 team. But it's almost always about how consistent he is versus how dominant when you talk about what makes Santorin great. And in a series where you're probably not the favorite, you would want someone with a little bit more of that pop-off potential, because just having a good CS lead and experience lead and making 1 or 2 good ganks is probably not enough to tilt the favor onto your side. And they need someone who's going to make an insane flash Lee Sin kick in the mid to late game to set up a surprise team fight or something. And the only guy on this team who seems to be that kind of player is Ignar, and maybe even to a lesser extent Turtle. And Ignar as well has not been looking quite as dominant as he did at the start of the split.
Yeah, it also feels like they're playing just kind of more defensive picks in general, right? And to your point, a lot of Santorin's really good games, it's like, oh, he got a farm lead on Trundle and picked up an early kill off a good gank and things like that.
To be fair, that Trundle game was sick. He got 2 great ganks off.
Yeah, it was a really good game, but I think they still lost that game, right? Like it's hard. It's hard to actually carry a game on tank Trundle, to be honest with you. You can be very useful and it's great to get your lanes ahead, but if it kills in the gold, they're going into you. And honestly, come team fight time, it rarely is the one who's really making a big difference. All right, so I think Kobe is digging up a couple Twitter questions for us here.
Oh yeah, I'm scrolling through now. We've talked about a lot of the stuff that people have actually asked.
Okay.
I found there's one I'm looking at right now though. Do you think there is a world where Xmithy will reunite with Team Liquid? Asked by @MoreThanGamer. Because honestly, they both kind of lost the breakup, I guess, with nobody kind of making playoffs after they separated.
Yeah, I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to show my ex how great my life has become, and you're both just like in the gutter.
I have to say, Xmithy was looking better there for a long time. He couldn't make it either.
Yeah.
I would say if we're talking about for summer, no. I don't think TL are going to make any sort of roster changes. I think that the contracts are kind of locked in, and I don't see that happening. But is there some scenario in the future? Maybe, right? I think that if TL just bombs out in summer too, they're going to make roster changes for next year for sure. And I'm sure that they would consider everything. It just would depend on if Xmithy was even available and stuff, right? And who else was available. But I definitely don't see that happening for summer. I think the only change TL might make is something along the lines of coaching staff. But again, it would depend on the right person being available, because even if you say, got to get rid of some of these players, I had a lot of people tweeting at me saying, oh, Impact was garbage in so many games, got to get rid of Impact. But who are you getting that's going to be better than them? There has to be someone that at least has a reasonable chance of being an upgrade, right? Or it's just not worth actually doing, because I think most people will still agree that TL has more of a chance to succeed in summer, given more time, if things can start to click, if the mental can be okay for the team and they can work together and get motivated and do all these things. There's still a tremendous amount of talent on this team.
Yeah,
There's a hiccup. Sorry.
It's funny. I pretty much agree. Like, even the coaching thing works that way, where you're like, who are you going to get for players? Who are you going to get for coaches as well? Like, a lot of the best coaches that we've kind of been highlighting from the last year are still on teams that seem to be doing pretty well. Finding someone new to step up and have the respect of such a dominant roster is a lot to hope you can find just floating free in the off season. Maybe you can reach out to other leagues and teams for people who haven't been able to, who are in a somewhat similar situation of underperforming, and you can find it. But it is, mid-season roster moves are just really hard to pull off, even on a coaching staff level.
when I tweeted about that, saying that I didn't think TL was going to make a lot of changes, Spawn responded to me like, "I'm available for coaching." So maybe
there we go. Get Spawn.
maybe TL will get
Papa
order
with
Spawn
Hunter
in
did
here.
well.
Yeah,
You know, all the
did
OS guys. Yeah.
FBI's looking good. You know, he's in playoffs.
That's what we need. Get Rusty. Just get the whole
Fish,
OS
Rusty,
casting team.
Spawn.
Yeah.
Just get them all.
Yeah.
Get Atlas. Steal them from the LCK.
All right, we got one here. Giving you guys the homework that every team is going to have in playoffs. At some point, you have to craft a theory of how to defeat Cloud9. What's it going to be?
How we beat Cloud9? Who are we?
Any team in playoffs. I mean, choose your champion, Mark.
Do I know where Cloud9 lives? Can I send someone to cut their internet?
Well, I have
No.
an answer, right? If you're TSM, you try to emulate what already got you a win. The one win that we actually saw against Cloud9. I think that you have to draft, for strong team fighting, strong 2v2, and you just try to go at Cloud9 and outperform them. Because at the end of the day, there's no easy answer to how you beat Cloud9. They don't have any super obvious weaknesses. Like, this is even when you listen to all the Cloud9 guys in interviews, they say that they think they have the best laners in every lane. This is why they're able to play that way, because they just can count on all their players to win, and then they're fighting from an advantage. So I think you have to be willing to kind of opt into that, take those team fights, draft for a stronger team fight kind of comp, and hope that you can actually perform on the same level as C9. Because the games that have felt like, obviously the TSM game they lost, the TL game they potentially could have actually lost, even just this weekend. And that was also through a similar thing. C9 had to outperform TL in those team fights to actually be able to take that game. Almost every single team fight was like a perfect equalizer from Nissi over multiple members, was Ven, getting a Varus ult on them and Licorice flanking. There was so much stuff going on from C9 that was really well executed. And TL still almost won that game. So I think that is your best shot. It's not some like, oh, bitch, ban this guy out and then you win. It's you have to perform incredibly well. You have to lane well, and you have to draft for team fighting and opt into the style that Cloud9 is going to take and just outperform them.
Yeah, I was going to say an emphasis for me on drafting for lanes as well, just for winning lanes, not even to a 5-on-5, but a lot of the skirmishes, drafting your lane so that you can come answer a blabber fight, basically. A lot of those matches from fights from the game that you're mentioning with TSM is like, you have to have 4 minutes into the game. You got to be ready to leave your lane, go fight over this scuttle crab or something, or, try and punish them for the aggressive flashes and skirmishes that they go for. That's kind of when we were talking about 100 Thieves, why I was highlighting confidence. It's so key when you're fighting Cloud9, because if you don't have confidence versus Cloud9, they will run over you and take enough for free before you realize that you can't actually fight anymore.
The one other thing I'd throw in there too is hopefully you have some unique picks. Not like they have to be cheesy, but like the Zillion for Bjergsen in that game, I think did a lot of work, not just in terms of executing it, but bringing a level of unfamiliarity to fighting for C9, where there's these cooldowns you need to worry about now, and playing around his res and watching out for the double bomb zone control kind of stuff. That I think if you can find some things that fit into that mold, where you can just knock them a little off kilter, or like if you have extra globals, or like, I don't know if anyone wants to play Eve, but like, oh God, now we have to worry about this invisible champion, like something to move them out of their groove could be pretty important, as long as it can still, like you guys are saying, team fight and skirmish early.
Yeah, you got to be willing to fight. Every game that looked even like their opponents had a remote chance, it was through fighting early. Even the first TSM game, where Bjergsen got that double kill early, obviously was kind of a misexecution between Blabber and Nissi. But that was, them having this Renekton mid lane and Blabber and Nissi making a mistake, and Bjergsen gets the double kill. Still lost that game, but it's one of those situations where you're looking for little cracks in the armor, because there's no big hole. They're 17-1, and the second place team has 10 wins. So everyone has really got to step up their game if anyone's going to challenge Cloud9.
Get some reworked fiddlesticks in there, some Wukong in there.
Just scare the shit out of them. That's the mental edge you need. You come out of the brush like, hands off the keyboard, and then you win the skirmish.
Exactly. All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode of The Dive. Hot off the presses right after our tiebreakers. Tune in for playoffs. We're coming for you next week.
Let's go.